Welcome to the book of 2 Samuel, a story of kingship, power, and the complexities of human leadership. 2 Samuel is not just about the reign of King David, it's about the tension between divine promises and human frailty. It's a book that explores the heights of success and the depths of failure, showing us that even the greatest leaders are not immune to sin, but that God's covenant remains steadfast. The book of 2 Samuel picks up where 1 Samuel left off, with the death of King Saul. David, who has been anointed as the future king, is now poised to take the throne. But the path to kingship is not without challenges. 2 Samuel is a book of transitions: David's rise to power, his consolidation of the kingdom, and the personal and political struggles that follow. At its core, 2 Samuel is about the fulfillment of God's promise to establish David's dynasty, but it's also about the consequences of sin and the need for repentance. The first part of 2 Samuel focuses on David's rise to power. After Saul's death, there is a brief civil war between the house of Saul and the house of David. David is initially crowned king over Judah, while Saul's son Ishbosheth rules over Israel. But through a series of events, including the assassination of Ishbosheth, David becomes the undisputed king of all Israel. This marks the beginning of a new era for the nation. David's reign is characterized by military victories and the establishment of Jerusalem as the political and spiritual center of Israel. One of the most significant moments in the book is when David brings the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, symbolizing God's presence with his people. This act solidifies David's role not just as a political leader, but as a spiritual one as well. At the heart of 2 Samuel is the Davidic Covenant, a promise that God makes to David in chapter 7. God tells David that his dynasty will endure forever, and that one of his descendants will establish an eternal kingdom. This covenant is a turning point in the biblical narrative, as it points forward to the coming of the Messiah, who will be a descendant of David. The Davidic Covenant is a moment of divine grace, but it also comes with responsibilities. David is called to lead with justice and righteousness, reflecting God's character in his rule. However, as the story progresses, we see that David, like all human leaders, is flawed. The second half of 2 Samuel takes a darker turn as David's personal failures begin to unravel his kingdom. The most infamous episode is David's sin with Bathsheba. David, in a moment of weakness, commits adultery with Bathsheba and then arranges for her husband, Uriah, to be killed in battle to cover up the affair. This act of betrayal marks a turning point in David's reign. God sends the prophet Nathan to confront David, and David repents of his sin. However, the consequences of his actions are severe. The child born to David and Bathsheba dies, and David's family begins to fall apart. His son Absalom rebels against him, leading to a civil war that nearly destroys the kingdom. The rebellion is eventually crushed, but the cost is great. Absalom is killed, and David is left mourning the loss of his son. The climax of 2 Samuel comes with the resolution of Absalom's rebellion and the restoration of David's rule, but the kingdom is never the same. The final chapters of the book depict a nation in turmoil, with further rebellions and political intrigue. David's once unified kingdom is now fractured, and his legacy is tainted by his personal failures. Yet, even in the midst of this turmoil, God's promise to David remains. The book ends with a sense of both closure and anticipation. David's reign is coming to an end, but the promise of an eternal kingdom through his descendants points forward to the future hope of Israel. 2 Samuel is more than just a story of political intrigue and personal failure. It's a book that explores the complexities of leadership, the consequences of sin, and the enduring nature of God's promises. David, despite his flaws, remains a central figure in God's plan for redemption. His story reminds us that no leader is perfect, but that God's grace is greater than our failures. The Davidic Covenant points us to the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise in Jesus Christ, the true King who will reign forever. As you read 2 Samuel, you are not just reading a story of ancient Israel. You are entering a story of kingship, covenant, and redemption, a story that points us to the hope of a kingdom that will never end. Thanks for watching. This is the Bible, book by book.